No, ceiling. I think you got to go. Ceiling is a national title. I mean, like when you have this amount of talent returning, uh, the leadership, uh, the cohesiveness. I think from a coach staff. Yeah, Matt Weiss is gone, but like you said, Sharon Moore is here. He's taking over primary calling responsibilities. We got back. This team ceiling is winning a national title, right? Most of the offensive line is back as well. Um,
Hmm.
uh, I think the floor. Actually, I think the Pennant Fanatic did a pretty good job. Floor is ten
Nailed
and
it.
two. Yeah,
Yep.
I think about 10-2. I just don't think there's any team, especially in the East. For one, look, we know that their preseason schedule is a cakewalk, right? So you can build that's three built in 3 or 4 wins right there. And then when you look at the Big Ten East, pretty much any team in the Big Ten, really the only team there's only two teams really that I think should be on par with it. Potentially that's Penn State and Ohio State. Normally I'll throw MSU in there, but I really don't know what they are quite yet. Um, besides that weird year they had other that Tucker had with K9, Kenneth Walker the third, they've kind of been like this, like where they should be. When you have a new head
Hmm.
coach in a different program, still trying to find their footing and their identity, right? So,
Yeah.
could MSU be a threat, especially going to East Lansing? Look, absolutely, but that remains to be seen. But for the most part, if I was to pick two games for them to drive for some floor, they should be 12-0 and 11 and have a really chance at national title.
Yeah, I
What about
think
yourself?
Ohio State and Penn State are definitely teams that are always going to be pretty tough, right? Penn State with Drew Aller and
Yeah,
some of the talent that they're bringing back, some of the 5-star running backs and Singleton, and some of what they're doing. It's going to be at Happy Valley. That's never a fun experience for Michigan fans or Wolverines. Uh,
probably
and
a
then of
wideout
course
too.
Ohio's yeah, whiteout. You got Ohio State, even though it's at the big house. Ohio State's a mega talented team. They're always going to be. They scared Georgia and probably should have won the playoff game. They're going to have a new quarterback situation. So, will the new quarterback, whoever it winds up being, it might be McCord. I don't know, but whoever that new quarterback is, will they gel with the wide receivers? We don't know, but Ohio State's wide receiver, they're going to be terrifying. They are. They
Yeah,
always will be. But so I'd say I agree completely with Dependent Fanatic and you, Dre. I think we're all in agreement here. 10-2 is the floor, with a drop to maybe Ohio State, maybe Penn State, or a surprise like a Michigan State or even a Maryland. I mean, Maryland always looks good every so often, and
yeah,
maybe wins a game they shouldn't. So it's possible, and I agree that the ceiling is national title. Blake Corum's back. I think you could argue that Blake Corum would have won us the TCU game, because I think he would have made a couple of cuts and a couple of things that just as good as Edwards is, I don't think he can do.
yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I think at least we would have made the Natty. I don't know if we would have won the Natty, but I think we would have made the Natty game. And then so he's coming back, Zinner's coming back, Keegan's coming back, CJ's coming back, and I'm really excited about Darius Clemens. I think he's going to really like. I don't know if you watched the spring game or remember the spring game. He made some lights out catches in the spring game.
Mhm.
So it seems like he might be a starting wide receiver in 2023. So I think the ceiling is absolutely national title and should be.
Yeah, agree. I agree with you here. Unless Toast Media said, is Natty or Buzz going 10-2 or another first one loss to be detrimental to the program? I wouldn't say detrimental. I think getting to anytime you get to the playoffs, it's always a boost to the program. I mean that's another year of you being on a national stage,
Yeah.
and being one of a few teams. Now I know that with the CFP is eventually, but still, you're one of a few teams. That's a grand stage, right? And I think getting there in itself is always an accomplishment. I know that some of the football elite have made it seem easy, like Georgia Alabamas of the world, but really they're an outlier. For the most part, you've seen teams that used to get there on the regular not get there anymore, right? Clemson
Hmm.
hasn't been there in a few years now, when it seems like they were a mainstay, right? You've seen
Yeah,
Oklahoma get there a couple of times, right? So and Notre Dame's gotten there a couple of times as well. So it's not
it's
easy.
true.
It really isn't. So
It's not. It took Hardball how many years? And Hardball,
right,
almost got there in 2016. We know what happened
yeah,
in the game that year.
yeah,
I would
painful,
argue Michigan got robbed. Not from the
painful.
the spot, but a couple other calls that like the unsportsmanlike that were just devastating to that game. So there were so many almosts that finally these last 2 years Michigan was able to break through. But it is, like you said, it is really hard. And even
Yeah,
Clemson struggled, and even Alabama didn't get it this year.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and even they themselves look incredible. It just seemed like they were untouchable. They were perfect.
mhm.
No, they're not. And back to Les Toast made another comment, but Dre Clemson won with 2 chips. Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm just saying I wouldn't use the word detrimental. I would say disappointing. Like if you were to let's say that happened, right? They had a repeat last year. They even with Blake, let's say Blake stays healthy. Obviously, their main core player stays healthy, right? So nothing
Yep.
goes off the rails. They, but the results are the same. They win the Big Ten. Whoever they play in the first round, they fall short, right? Um, and Blake. Let's say after that, of course, Blake's gone. Donovan goes to NFL. Who knows what JJ would do? Whatever, right? So we definitely will look at the following year saying maybe they take a step back. You'll look at a 3-year span where it's like, man, we had some pretty good teams and we never won a playoff game or a national title. Would it feel a little bit like, man, that's a disappointment? Sure. I'll be lying if I said it didn't feel like a slight disappointment, but I wouldn't say
Yeah.
detrimental. Detrimental. Because detrimental would say to me speaks more towards it hurting your program. And I don't see making a playoff ever hurting your program. So I just disagree with the word that Les Toast used.